Hey guys, JC Nichols here, JC Nichols Custom Contracting. Oh, no knives today, no knife making. Um, I did recover my forge, which is it's a happy thing. It was involved in a trailer fire. So the forge is home, but obviously it's in need of some refurb. So I've got to get some insulation, get my propane hooked up to it, and then we can. They're starting to stack up a little bit. I've got scales ready for. Here's a cool idea. I don't know if anybody. I'm sure somebody else has done it first. This one just needs to be touched up a bit before I forge it. But see if I can. What I did was I ran out of posts. I ran out of everything. So I thought I'd try. This is the first one I've ever tried. It's just a standard drop point. There's the scales. Scales are complete. But I thought I would try a couple of 22 Magnum brass shells. And they may work, they may not. I don't know. So this is not what today's episode is about. Today's episode actually is about I wouldn't say an argument, but a debate that we had in the shop last night, the three of us, regarding copper wire strippers. And so I don't see why this won't work. If anybody, just throw it in the comment section. If anybody has a reason why this won't work using ammo brass, once it's epoxied, and just carving it off like you normally would. I prefer to have a hole through the knife blade. It just gives you a little more option to put paracord through it or whatever. But it fits nice and snug. It's not a complicated knife by any means. I added a ferro striker and a wire bitter. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. But I thought that was kind of cool. I know it's not my idea, but I'm gonna try it anyway. So I got 1, 2, 3. I got 4 knives to ready for the forge, and no forge. So that's obviously what I'm gonna be doing this week. Okay, so there was one of my partners. He got the company is not supporting this channel, so I'm not going to name them, and there's no sense in that. But I've seen every wire stripper out there, and this thing blew my mind. It was a cat's ass. It honestly was. It was one of those things where you see it and you just go, what is wrong with me? Why did I not see that? It's so eloquent, simple, but also just, you gotta see. Anyway, you'll know what it is. Go on Amazon. It's got an orange disc on the front that has every single fitting for a wire, right up to coax, and a little spring-loaded. You'll see it. Anyway, enough of that. It was $40. If you don't have $40, or you don't like Amazon, or you just don't believe me, this is the simplest theory of how to do it. And believe me, there's a lot of smart guys out there that have done much more than this, but this is basically the bare bones of how to strip a regular wire to do it efficiently. So it's basically just a piece of scrap wood. And I don't like using wood. I'm working on a few prototypes. I figured why not use metal and make the actual jig the blade? And if you can just get that blade, if it's tempered and if it's been forged, that blade won't. Like maybe sharpen it up have it so you can sharpen it up with chainsaw files. it's just the wood. The wood's okay. It's great. The blades just tend to move eventually. These blades I find are the best, and I'm not sure what they're called, but I would call them a precision arts and crafts blade. These little guys. And they're thin, and I think that's why they cut so well, and they last a long time. Really sharp too. But they more than an alpha blade. I've tried roofing blades, hook blades, and obviously these guys. I find they're a little too thick. It's hard to get them to stay fixed in the wood. And I'm sure there's guys out there that have secrets. Throw them in my comments. But this is the basic for anybody that's never done it before. Here's bare bones. You drill a hole. That's just big enough. Ream it out a little bit, but it's a nice tight fit even without the blade in there. And just pound that blade in there. So, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. That blade is sitting about, I don't think I'll be able to get it. That blade is just sitting about that much in the center of that hole. So that's the only trick, is to pound that blade directly into the center of the hole. I mean, a monkey can do that. And that's it. Other than that, I'm sure I don't have to show you guys this part, but let's go over it from the beginning. So we start. I got about, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 feet of wire. It's actually good wire, but I figured I'd use a good piece. Usually start like that, put a little slit in it. You don't have to slit the wire all the way down it. It is just a matter of grabbing your ground wire first, with whatever you have, and pull. Doesn't get much easier than that. Kind of like cleaning a partridge. Just stick with the wings, yank on the legs, and you're done. And if anybody, what I was thinking about doing, if you're doing a lot of copper, if you're doing a lot of wiring, I've always thought of making like a loom, I guess. And basically a way to spool it up, your clean copper as you go. So it's neater, and it's in a nice tight spool when you take it to whoever's doing your recycling for you, or your scrap metal guy. And I've tried, I've never really tried it yet, but I just thought of different, like, what could you use? You use put some comments in if you guys have an idea. Use a clothesline reel, maybe, or like a big dowel, and you could rig up a downrigger, like a steel line trout reel, maybe. I don't know. I think it'd be, rather than crushing it all together into a ball, it'd be easier to weigh it if you want it to really be accurate and know how much you actually have. Here I'm talking so long. It usually doesn't take me this long. I should have seen how long that was going to take me. So let's say this took me a minute and a half without talking. There's your ground wire, done. It's ready for distribution. So, black or white, doesn't matter. So we go with black. It doesn't matter what kind of, the longer you go, the more kinks you get in it, obviously, but it doesn't matter what kind of stripper you have. The wire's got to be relatively straight. Some that depending on how you're doing it, it's actually kind of beneficial to have, to have a guy on the far end keeping it tight, keeping some kind of tension to it. Doesn't hurt, certainly doesn't hurt. If you don't have someone, you can tie it off to something. I find just feeding it through inches at a time. I mean, if you're not going for speed records. So, like I said, try and get it untangled as best you can. The other thing, yeah, I'll bring it up in a minute. Alright, so let's go with white. White's not as, I'm not going to do both of them because you guys get the idea. White looks a little straighter. So, the blade is facing this way. So we're going to feed through the jig this way. And really, is it fair to call this a jig? It's a jig. It's about as least amount of effort to call something a jig. And this, I made my holes pretty tight, so it might take a little finesse to slide them through. See this? Every time I try it with white when I'm filming, I just did one 2 seconds ago and everything was fine. And now it's giving me a hard time. Hold on. It's the same with my prototypes for my metal jigs. The first time I try it, works like a charm. And then I put the camera on, and it's a total blowout. Okay. The hole might be a little too small too, but whatever.